Okay, welcome everybody to my top 25 Wild Legend Soul Demon Hunter deck guide. Yeah, everybody doubted this deck. Obviously, it's a very popular deck in Standard, has performed very well in Standard, especially in the last Masters Tour, but you're not here about that. You're Wild players, so let's talk about Wild stuff. The deck is pretty similar to the normal Standard list, except it's got a couple of different inclusions that I find very, very powerful in the current state of the Wild metagame. So let's talk about them. So again, I'm not going to go too in depth with everything here. If you have any familiarity with Demon Hunter whatsoever, it's basically Soul Demon Hunter. It's basically just put fragments in your deck and have these really, really broken cards like Shard Shatter Mystic and Soul Shard Lapidary and Sociologist Malicia to do really, really broken things for very, very cheap, which is nice. We know that's what we want to do. So let's talk about it. The deck, obviously, like I said, you're using those soul fragments and you're pushing face with the Lapidary. And the really powerful thing that lets this deck have success in Wild is the inclusion of Bran. Obviously, your battle cries triggering twice is broken no matter what you do. But when you're talking about pushing for potentially 10 damage, you know, with what basically one card, it's pretty powerful. And of course, we all know how broken Penflinger is. Penflinger with Bran allowing you to dodge taunts and go face or just clear up aggro boards, super duper powerful. Yeah, gotta love it, right? Just don't draw your soul fragments is basically how the deck fails, but it can push out a ton of damage somewhere. You know, if you're managing your resources correctly, you could be looking in like the 50-60 damage range, and sometimes more if you can discount like Bran off Skull or something broken like that. Those are easy wins when you get 0 mana Bran. Anyway, the core cards, again, it's pretty close to the, you know, like the competitive Standard version. Obviously, the Demon Hunter card pool is limited. Glide is probably the best Demon Hunter card in this deck. I say this without exaggeration. People will be haters about it, but let me tell you something. With all the Reno Warlock and the Reno Priest on ladder, Glide being able to shuffle your opponent's hand back into their deck and only draw 4 cards, even if you're like it disrupts Pokel, great. It Warlock taps a ton, so by the time this card's playable in the outcast position, most of the time their hand is full. So you, at the very least, you're discounting their hand. You're getting rid of 4 or 5 cards from their hand, which is huge, of course, when you're trying to empty your hand and hit them in the face in that matchup especially. So it's really good against those slow matchups. Also, Mally Druid. Mally Druid, it's been really good against Mally Druid after they resolve Melon or Geppetto. Shuffling their hand back into their deck is pretty good because you've taken away their tutoring abilities. They've already expended those, and then you basically make them start from scratch, right? So that's the that's why I play this card. It's super valuable. You could try playing it without it, but those matchups become much more difficult when you don't have this card. Mage Hunter is another tech choice I've included. With Aggro Druid on ladder, that's the biggest reason for this card. You can get blown out very, very quickly by Embiggen. If Embiggen and then like they summon a pirate and get patches from the deck, they can really steamroll fast, and we don't want that to happen. You know, we want to have a chance in those games, even though sometimes it feels like you don't have a chance. And Blade Dance can potentially miss. You know, if they have enough buffs, they can just overpower you and make this card irrelevant. So this being able to value trade into buffed aggro druid minions is a huge deal. Of course, it's also just a silence for warlocks, void lords and whatever else, right? So it's very, very good. You can run Consume Magic in its place if you'd like. I had Consume Magic in initially. I didn't like it. Mage Hunter performed better for me, but to each his own. And do I have any other tech cards in here? Yeah, Lotheb. You don't have to play Lotheb. There haven't been as many quest mages and stuff, but it buys you a turn most of the time against the Reno Priests and against the slower Druid decks. You can, if you're not seeing those, in your pocket meta, you can take this out. You'd probably just replace it with another copy of a Silence somewhere. All right, so mulligans. Let's move on to mulligans, right? Let's see here. You want, of course, most of your deck doesn't do much if you're not putting fragments in. You need Shard Shatter Mystic against aggressive decks, and the only way this card's battlecry triggers is if you have Soul Fragments. So, of course, number one in our mulligan, that's what we're looking for. So, Spirit Jailer. You want this in every matchup, without a doubt. Marrow Slicer, every matchup, without a doubt. This is the better of the two weapons. It shuffles Soul Fragments in. It's really, really strong. It gets the deck going. And it curves you out into Lapidary. Which, of course, when you're trying to kill somebody really quickly, Marrow Slicer and a Lapidary it's just a lot of damage. Like, these two cards by themselves, with two swings of this and the Lapidary, 13 damage over 2 turns is obviously just a lot of damage. So yeah, those are the 2 cards you keep against everything. In faster matchups, you want Twin Slice, Blade Dance, and Shard Shatter Mystic. They're huge against, if you can get through like the first wave of, I'm sorry, did I say Warblades? I don't know if I said Warblades as well. So Twin Slice, Blade Dance, Warblades, and Shard Shatter Mystic. That's what we're looking for. Against the aggro matchups, we need to be able to heal and clear the board so we can get to our power turns. And, even sometimes we use Militia to combat the boards, but of course this card costs 7. So we have to get to 7, and in order to do that, we need to clear and heal. I can't say that enough. Against slower matchups, I keep Glide because, again, slower matchups tend to have a lot of hand economy, want to give us the best chance to win. It's by shuffling their cards into their deck after we've expended ours and put pressure on them, and then we can glide back stuff. It's also obviously good against, like I said, Reno Priest, Reno Warlock, and slower Druids, or any other slow deck. It's just really solid. So I'd be keeping that. And also against slow decks, you can keep Skull if you want to. You want to be more careful because, of course, we're talking about the outcast position on Skull and on Glide. Glide's a little easier because it costs 4 mana, but Skull, if it's in the outcast position, you 100% want to keep it. Right? You 100% want to keep it. It's super important that you do that because discounting your hand, getting your deck going for super cheap, and then it opens up the brand like Lapidary combos, the brand Penflinger combos, etc. So you could really, really, really maximize your damage output after resolving Skull. Sometimes you don't need it, but of course, if you have the liberty to play it, you want to do that as soon as you can, right? And so I've played this deck a lot on stream over the last week and a half here, and I've gotten a lot of questions, so I want to address some of those now. The biggest one being, do I need to play Kayn Sun Fury in my deck? Look at me. Yes, you need to play Kayn Sun Fury in your deck. Having Silence is nice, is really good, but singular Silence doesn't get you through a wall of Warlock Taunts and Spreading Plague. And you need to be able to do that consistently. Kayn allows you to do that. You can go crazy with Penflingers and stuff, or you could just push in all in on your damage early game against Warlock, because against slow Warlocks, they're spending their early turns tapping and reducing their life total for you. Right? And it's like Dark Lair as well. They can get super duper low. And you want to be able to just play, like have a little bit of damage and be able to bypass any taunts, especially multiple taunt boards. Dark Lair can make multiple taunt boards. Cube-Lock, Reno-Lock can make multiple taunt boards. And again, Spreading Plagues with Druids can make, and Oaken Summons even, you can have potentially multiple taunt boards. So you don't want to be stuck. You'll be like, oh, well, I only have this one Silence. How am I getting through 2 taunts? And sometimes you don't have Blade Dance. Okay, well, Kayn is your answer. Kayn is the one that closes games. I wouldn't play this deck without Kayn. If you have to, if you are just dying to play it without Kayn, put in more Silences. But again, this card has to be number 1 on your list for craft if it's what you're missing. Everything else is pretty cheap. Kayn obviously one of the 4 legendaries in here, but Kayn is definitely high important. Any questions? Oh yeah, Militia. Militia was another question that I had. If you don't need to play this card, it's really really strong. I got to tell you. So it's obviously it just summons the board full of 3/3s with rush. Sometimes the rush is really impactful, right? When you can get to turn 7 against aggro or any like sort of mid-rangey board deck. Obviously, being able to generate a bunch of 3/3s and value trade and stick a board afterwards is obviously very powerful. Or if you're just sticking a 5/5, it's fine. But most of the time against the slower decks, you're just tempoing this on 7 because it's a board that they have to answer. Because against you're just spitting out damage constantly with this deck. It's all damage all the time. And this, after they finally clear your like lapidaries and everything like that, and they're like, oh, phew, we don't have to deal with any more board. We can just deal with the face. Militia gives you another wave in one card, which is super powerful. All right, and I'll touch on this one more time. The Mage Hunter and Consume Magic comp. Obviously, if you guys know Consume Magic, is just silence enemy minion and outcast draw a card. So it's 1 mana. It's super good. This would probably be better against Warlocks and stuff. If you're running into a lot more Warlocks instead of aggro druids, maybe you cut the Mage Hunter. In my experience, my matchup spread, it's been a lot of aggro druid in High Legend this season. So Mage Hunter has been the better choice. But of course, like I said, if you're missing Kane and stuff, or if you're not seeing aggro druid, go crazy. Consume Magic is a really good card, and you would not be wrong for playing it. That's for sure. Okay, that's everything. The Demon Hunter deck, it's pretty straightforward. You just want to smack people in the face. The biggest deal with this deck is the Mulligan. You want to make sure that you're, like I said, you're finding the Jailer, the Marrow Slicer, and you're curving out as much as possible, getting fragments into your deck, and then closing the game out with either your monster like brand turns, or sometimes you could just steamroll them with lapidaries and continually push damage. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's clean. It feels super powerful right now. I have over, let me see here. I'll pull this up. My numbers for you guys here. Just for your stats really quickly. I want to be able to show you guys this. The 60% win rate over 255 games. These have all been in Legend. Very favorable against Warlock. Priest is your worst matchup, and then you can have problems with slow warrior decks, but you can get there against basically everything else. Rip Hunter. Everything else is pretty good. Rogue is fine. But again, if you mulligan for your aggressive stuff against the odd paladin here. Oh, I'm sorry, my camera's blocking a little bit. Whoopsie doodles. It's okay. We're keeping this in because this is authenticity. This is the stuff that I'm talking about. Right. So if you can find your Mystic, your Soul Shears, the cards that you want early in the game against aggro, Warblades, and all this stuff that we talked about earlier in the video, these matchups become better. The Rogue and the Paladin. All right, so that's it. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions, post any comments on this YouTube video, or of course you can find me at my Discord. I'll answer any questions that you guys might have, and I'll post any updates that I have to this deck. Although again, I've played a bunch of games with this deck, and I think this is the best list right now. But yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to catch you here more often and on my stream on Twitch as well. All right, thanks guys. And literally every shaman deck, is that true? Webboards are Mechathoons versus Glare. Yeah. Darklight's worst matchup is Tip Paladin? Really? Dude, another Raised Dead? Are you kidding me? Good lord. Stop. Can you cut it out, please? I don't have the twin slices to win this game. I need the twin slices. Alright, other Darklight discarded, Penflinger discarded. He's gonna just Spellstone me again because this guy's a filthy high roller. Could be a Mally Shaman meta. Not impossible. Go ahead. Show me the Spellstone. Yeah. You're so good. You're still dead. Imagine playing this deck without Kane.